This is George Dionne with Metal Express Radio, and I'm here with vocalist Doogie White. How you doing today, Doogie?
I'm very well, thank you, George. It's a lovely day here in Scotland.
Yes, it is. We're here today to talk about your solo album that you've re-released after 10 years called As Yet Untitled. It came out on June 4th. Why did you decide to re-release this solo album?
Well, I got the rights back to it. The record company that I originally had signed it to, we got no press, no publicity, nothing. And so after a certain amount of time, I got the rights back, and I was approached by the record company that's putting out now, and they had a great idea. It was very simple. Do you have 2 bonus tracks? Now, I always over-record just in case something doesn't work. So I had 2 tracks left over, and then it turned out that they had actually owned the rights to tribute albums that myself and many UK musicians had played on in the late 90s, early 2000s. We'd guys like Bernie Marsden from Whitesnake and Mickey Moody from Whitesnake and Neil Murray from Whitesnake, anybody that was in Whitesnake except Coverdale, Bernie Shaw from Uriah Heep. We just had a whole bunch of people that all would get a phone call on a Sunday night and say, we're doing a Nazareth tribute album, would you like to come in and and sing 3 songs? So that's just how it worked. And he actually owns the recordings to that. So he said, let's put this bonus CD together, which is actually, which I thought was great fun. It makes it a wee bit more interesting to people who have the album and a wee bit more interesting to people who don't have the album.
Absolutely. This is the first time I've discovered your solo album, and it's been out for 10 years, and I've followed your career most of my life. And one of the songs I wanted to talk about on the first disc, which is the original material, is the first song, Come Taste the Band. I swear to God, it was a Deep Purple song, and you got that sound going. Was that really your audition song for Richie Blackmore?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He called on the Saturday night. I recorded that on the Monday. Not this version, but a version of it. Okay. And I did the Coverdale Hughes parts. My writing partner and friend at the time, Alex Dixon, he played like Tommy Bolin. And we sent it to Ritchie, and Ritchie thought it was funny because for your listeners who don't know, Come Taste the Band was the only Deep Purple album at that time that Richie Blackmore had not played on. So that was the gag, and he got it. It could have cost me the gig, but clearly he told me he liked the sense of humour. He thought I was cheeky, and he thought that we could work together, and we did.
And you actually have Rainbow alumni, Tony Carey on there, and Patty Russo from Meatloaf. How do you know these guys?
Well, Patty and I have been friends for years. And she was working in London at the time, and she was staying at our house with myself and my wife. And I said, Patty, I'm going to record this song. And she said, okay. Now, the thing with Patty is that she's so good, she can do it in one take. She's so loud that that's all the neighbours would allow. She's and what I wanted to do was, the song originally started with a slide guitar just going down the fretboard, and I thought, wouldn't it be brilliant if I can get Tony Carey to put a Taro Woman kind of intro on it and play keyboards on the song? And I called him up, and he just said, yeah, okay. No problem. And he sent me 3 different versions through. So I picked the longest one.
Awesome. It worked out well. It's a great song. Couple other songs you wrote with Mick Tucker, who you played with in Tank. So I'm assuming that you guys have stayed close since then.
Well, that's how I managed to get the gig in Tank, was because Mick and I, a mutual friend, put us together. The original idea was that I was working with Craig Goldie, who was Dio's guitar player, and him and I were writing songs together. And then Wendy, damn it, let the cat out of the bag. Someone in power heard them and said, "No, you can't use them. Those ideas have got to be for the next Dio album." And so I had to find someone else to help me write the songs. So that's why Mick Tucker got involved and why Paul Lowe got involved. And I did 2 songs with Tucker, and they asked me to join Tank. And we did 2 albums together, and we toured around for about a year, not quite a year, but maybe a year. And the 2 albums I did, War Machine and War Nation, are great. And that's where Mick Tucker came into the picture.
Excellent. Another guy that you wrote with for this particular album was Alex Dixon from Midnight Blue. You guys were both in that. I'm assuming that you guys are also close. I mean, it appears that you're close with everybody on this album.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, Alex and I have written nearly 200 songs together over the years, and he left Midnight Blue to join a Scottish band called Gun. And then he left Gun to join Bruce Dickinson's band, and then he left that to join Robbie Williams. I mean, he's such a talent. It's true. It's true. The funniest thing about Alex was, I got a phone call from him one Tuesday morning, and he was working with one of the Spice Girls. Do we have time for this?
Absolutely.
Okay. He was working with Emma Bunton, Baby Spice, and she had a song called "Sunshine on a Rainy Day." Sunshine on a rainy day, da da da. Right, and on a Tuesday, it was moving up the charts. So there was a chance she was going to appear on a TV show over here called Top of the Pops, right, which is on the Thursday. But they'd lost the backing tracks. They'd lost the backing vocals. So he phoned me up and he said, "Man, I'm in with Emma. Can you come up and do backing vocals?" And I said, "Aye, okay." So I turned up at the studio and I walked in and I said, "I'm here for the Emma Bunton sessions." And they looked at me and they said, "You're not black and you're not a girl. Why are you here?" And I said, "Because I do a really good black girl choir." And I went in, and Alex and I went in, and him and I did all the backing vocals for this song. And then on the Wednesday, the song went down the charts, and it never got heard.
I don't know if that's a story you should tell. That's not a successful story, but that's funny as shit.
I'm sure you'll ask me about unsuccessful stories very shortly.
Oh, we're getting there.
Yeah.
So back to the album. You asked Richie Blackmore to play on a couple of songs.
Yeah, well, him and I, there are 4 or 5 songs that are left over from the Stranger in Us All sessions, and one in particular I really liked, and I asked him if I could record it, and if I did, would he play on it? And the reply was no.
Oh,
so
okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
and I asked Yngwie. Well, I recorded it just shortly after I'd left Yngwie's band. And I thought it was a bit crazy just to ask him, because it would just sound like something that from Attack or the other album I did with him. But I asked him and he just went, "Nah, I don't have the time. I'm working with Ripper. Everybody's working with Ripper, you know." So that didn't happen either.
Okay.
But there's great players on there. I mean, Derek Sherinian's playing on there. I've got Neil Murray playing. I've got I've got Phil Hillborn playing. Pontus Norgren. There's fantastic players on there. Broman on the drums. Patrick Johansson. I mean, great players.
So if you get a little more response from the re-release, are you going to consider a second solo album?
Oh, it took me so long to do this one. And I'm so busy. I mean, to be honest with you, George, I treat every album as if it's a solo album anyway. I mean, apart from Yngwie, I don't really get direction from anybody. I just go in there. They give me a piece of music, and I just go in there and do it, which is exactly the same as what happened with the solo album. So I'm not saying that they are solo albums, but I treat them as if it's the first album, as if I'm trying to make an impression, as if I'm trying to do the best, and that's what I do. You know, I want people to think that the work that I do, whether it's working with Michael Schenker or whether it's working with Richie Blackmore or Mick Tucker or Alex Dixon, the songs have to be the best that I can bring from the music that I'm given. And that's the most important thing to me.
Have you ever toured on your solo material or as a solo artist, or are you usually in bands when you hit the road?
Well, I have my own band called White Noise, right? It used to only be drummers that could do this, but now singers can do it. A lot of my friends who are singers do this as well. And so I go to Brazil and I send a list of songs for a 90-minute set to my friends in Sao Paulo or Rio. And they rehearse, and I go in for 3 or 4 days and rehearse and fine-tune it. Same in Argentina, same in Norway, same in Russia. So because there aren't the budgets to be taking a band around anymore, so I get to work, and what's interesting for me is that I get to work with all these brilliant musicians in different countries. And everything's different. It's a different take every time. You know, the Argentine guys play it the way Maradona would have played it. The Brazilian guys play it the way Pele would have played it, and the Norwegian guys just play it how they play it, you know. I see you don't know who Maradona or Pele are, do you?
They sound familiar to me, but I'm going to look that up later.
Yeah. Okay.
See, I'm from the U.S., so we're not as cultured as the Europeans.
No, it's soccer. It's soccer.
Oh,
I know you guys don't.
We call it. Yeah, we don't celebrate soccer here like you guys do.
I know. That's why you're isolated from the rest of the world.
That's right. So speaking of the U.S. and us having just weird pop culture and as far as music or soccer or anything like that, okay. The bands that you're in, with probably the exception of Rainbow, I mean, is it frustrating that the U.S. is kind of a tough market to crack? Like I don't think that the U.S. really knows Doogie White.
No, no one does, but even when I was over there with Ritchie, I mean, when I was playing with Ritchie and Rainbow, you know, it was right at the sort of end peak of grunge, and you know, and we were playing. I remember playing somewhere in Texas, and we'd driven for about 3 days to get there, and we turned up, and there was only about 250 people there, but there was a bucking bronco at the back of the hall in the bar that we were playing.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm singing, I'm the man on the self. Jesus, he's just fallen off the horse again. You know, I mean, it was crazy. We didn't really do, I mean, the business that we did with Rainbow in America was not very good at that time. With Yngwie, we got, in certain territories, you know, and I mean territories by states and or even cities within it, some of the times it was really good. With Schenker, we managed to build it up from playing bars and clubs to small theatres, which was really good. And we always had a good time. I mean, what I love about playing in America is that you can drive 150 miles and it's a completely different place. You know? And we used to stop, and again I'll mention Texas, but we used to drive through Texas, and you know, and it was 3 days, and you would stop off in this little town because the driver wasn't allowed to drive any further.
Right.
And there would be a hotel or a motel, and then there would be an exhaust shop, a battery shop, a tire shop, and a coffee shop. And it was Mile High was the one that I remember the best only because that's sort of euphemism for having sex in the toilets in a plane.
Absolutely.
But they had the Mile High Church there, which made me laugh. I didn't know if you had to be in the airplane club just to get in there, or whether it was actually high or not.
It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So you appeared on the Rainbow album.
I wrote the Rainbow album.
You wrote the Rainbow album, Stranger in All of Us.
It's a small difference, but it's a difference.
I don't think it got a fair shake. I listened to it recently. I don't think it got a fair shake, and I don't know who owns the Rainbow back catalog, but these things don't seem to get remastered and put back out there for people to enjoy. Different
record label. All the early Rainbow stuff was all on Polydor.
Yeah.
This one was on BMG, and and so it really doesn't make any sense for them to negotiate to do it, so they don't. So it never turns up anywhere. I mean, you don't see it ever.
Right. It's fortunate that it's available digitally. I guess you can stream it. I mean, that's the good. That's the good part about it.
I have no idea.
In 1991, you auditioned for Iron Maiden, and like you said, everybody goes with Ripper. What was that experience like?
Well, it was quite unexpected, actually. I was supposed to be going to Scotland, and I had my bags packed, and I was actually walking out the door when Dickie Bell, who was the production manager for Iron Maiden, and that's my dog. My wife's just come in, so my dog's howling in the background. Dickie Bell turned up at the door of the house and said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Scotland." And he went, "No, you're auditioning for Iron Maiden on Monday. Here's 22 songs to learn." So I had to learn. So it was a tall order, but it worked well enough for me to be invited back a second time. But they gave the gig to Blaze, which allowed me to go on and work with Ritchie, who was my favourite guitar player and remains my favourite guitar player. And in '99, normal service was resumed when Bruce and Adrian came back. And I don't know that it would have made any difference who got the job, who got the gig. You know, Maiden are bigger and more important in the metal scene now than they ever were.
Absolutely. You know? We never expected that.
Yeah.
So in the 2000s, you joined up with Yngwie Malmsteen, and you performed on 2 albums. You say in your press release that it was a hugely enjoyable spell. The guys that came before you probably wouldn't agree. But do you think that Yngwie is kind of misunderstood guy? Because I've talked to him, and it makes sense to me.
Well, I was very aware when I went to join Yngwie. He said to me, "Look, I've had problems in the past. It's up to you if you want to do this or not. I'm going to write everything. You will get, all I'm asking you to do is to sing and tour." And I said, "Okay." So I knew what the parameters were, which was different from the guys that went before me, because a lot of them felt they wrote and contributed and didn't get credit. I never wrote anything. It was all there for me. So I have no issues with that at all. And then what he did was, I left and he got Ripper in, and he did the same thing with Ripper. And now Ripper was the last singer that he worked with, and now he's doing it all himself, which is kind of what he was heading for anyway. But, he used to say to me, "Look, Frank Sinatra just stands out there. People don't come to see the backing band or hear, the bass player or the keyboard player. They're there." And he says, "It's my name that sells the tickets." And I never forgot that. It's, as you said very kindly earlier on, nobody in America knows who the fuck I am, But that's because I respect the guy whose name's on the ticket, and if people are interested, they know who I am. I mean, I get announced every night when I was with Schenker. I get announced every night when I was Yngwie. So people, if they're interested, can go and check it. And if they don't want to check it, then there's nothing I can do about that.
Absolutely, and it's funny you say the guy on the ticket. I mean, you've worked with Schenker in the Temple of Rock, and I saw you a couple years ago in the Schenker Fest concerts. Those were pretty good, and Schenker's kind of another guy that people say, I guess, is misunderstood, maybe a little difficult.
I don't know that he's difficult. What he is Michael's a perfectionist. It was a very good learning curve for me to work with Michael. And we were, I was 3.5 years with Blackmore. I was 7 years with Yngwie, and I've been 9 with Michael. And you learn something every time you go along. Now, if you go to a Michael Schenker concert and it starts at 7:30 and finishes at 9 o'clock, it does that every night because it's all very well rehearsed. There's no, when you played with Yngwie or when I played with Ritchie, it can go off in tangents and they just take it somewhere and you have no idea what's going on until you get the horse's eyes and the pointy finger and you bring it back in. With Michael, it's exactly the same as if you went to see an AC/DC show or an Iron Maiden show. Apart from the introductions between the songs, it's all exactly the same every night.
Right.
The energy moves forward and moves back, but the songs are played exactly the same every night. Whereas with Ritchie and Yngwie, we have no idea where it's going to go or how it's going to end. What I'm trying to say is that it was a lesson for me to learn because I had worked with these guys for so long, so you could always go off, and it generally finds its way back to where it's supposed to be. Right.
In addition to re-releasing your solo album this year, you're actually pretty busy going into the latter half of the year. You have another project you're working on called Long Shadow's Dawn.
Yeah.
Coming out on August 6th, the album's Isle of Wrath. Can you just briefly talk what that's about?
Well, it's released on Frontiers Records, and Frontiers Records have a huge back catalogue, and they've been courting me for a while, and we could never agree on what I was going to do. And it wasn't until they put me together with Emil Norberg, a Swedish guitar player and a great writer. And I said, okay, this will work. And it worked. The idea behind the Long Shadow's Dawn is I had a dream of 10,000 people shouting LSD, LSD before we came on the stage. And I just thought that would be brilliant. So I'm very proud of the album that we did, and we worked very hard on it. And it's really down to what the record company do in ways of promotion. If I can get half the promotion that I'm getting for my re-release solo album through Frontiers to promote LSD, then we can do good. It can do well.
I like that. If you can get half the promotion to promote LSD from Frontiers.
well, I mean, the thing is, the guy that's doing all the promo for this stuff, and you'll know him. I'm doing 3 of these a day, every day except Thursdays and Sundays. Every day. For the LSD album, I've done 1. And it comes
still early for Frontiers. Still early. They'll get them out.
Well, you know them better than me. I'm just saying.
I just like you keep referring to LSD, so I'm thinking the drug. So I'm like, Frontiers needs to promote LSD.
Of it.
So you've just been announced as the new vocalist for Alcatrazz for their 5th album coming out in October.
Yeah.
I mean this all in fun, but does Graham Bonnet leave your number when he leaves a band?
Graham and I have been friends for 20 odd years, and he stayed in our house in London. We live in Edinburgh now, but he stayed in our house in London when he missed a flight, him and his girlfriend. And I came down, I just heard this, and I came down the stairs, and he was standing, and there was just 2 stairs going down from the hallway to the kitchen, and he was just standing holding the steps going into the kitchen. It's been there for nearly 60 years, and he managed to break them, So he's an old friend of mine for many, many years, and he came up to Edinburgh, and he was touring with Alcatraz at the time, and I got a phone call saying, "Will you take Graham out?" So I did, and we wandered around Edinburgh, which is a beautiful city, and he said, "I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like Alcatraz. I don't like the music. I didn't like it when I was doing it with Yngwie. I didn't like it when I was doing it with Steve Vai. I don't want to do this." And I said, "Well, you're in your 70s now, man. Go and do something that makes you happy. What do you want to do?" And he said, "I want to do the Graham Bonnet Band." And I said, "Okay," because it gives him a wee bit more freedom. I don't think he likes playing with the shreddy guitar players. I don't think he likes to be overshadowed by, and it's not saying that any of these guys did overshadow him, because he's brilliant at what he does. I loved them before he even joined Rainbow. I heard them first time in 77, 78 and thought, my God. And I didn't know. I mean, I was just finishing the Long Shadows Dawn album, and I got a phone call from the Alcatraz guy saying Graham's left. And I was like, oh, God, this is my fault. And they went, do you fancy fulfilling the tour dates? And they had tour dates for the last album. And I said, okay, but of course they got cancelled. And I just said to them, listen, let's do a new album. Let's just go into the studio and write an album. If we're going to put this together as Alcatraz, let's do an album. Let's not be an Alcatraz cover band, an Yngwie cover band, a Bonnet cover band, a Vai cover band. Let's just go in and just do this. And we've done it, and it sounds terrific. And the response from the people who have heard the songs and the response from the people who have seen the videos has been very, very positive. And you've heard it yourself, so you know how good it is.
I like it. I like it.
You know how good it is. I've got dear friends who have replaced legends and bands, and they just, you have to brush it off. And people will either come on the journey with you or they won't, and that's their choice. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm just here to say this is Alcatraz now. Either you like it or you go and listen to somebody else. And I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I'm just doing what other people did when they stepped into when Ronnie stepped into Ozzy's shoes, or when Bruce stepped into Dionne's shoes, or whenever anybody did something that changed the norm for people. I hope that this album is accepted and loved the same way that Number of the Beast and Heaven and Hell were. And you know what? It just might be. It's that good. It's not as good as either of those albums, but it's a bloody good album.
The re-release of the solo album, As Yet Untitled, is out now. You can get it, you can stream it, and you can buy it at the Store for Music. I want to thank you, Doogie, for taking the time. You also have Long Shadows Dawn on the way. You have Alcatraz 5 on the way. You're a busy, busy guy. Thank you for taking the time to speak with Metal Express Radio today.
Lovely to speak to you all. Stay safe, and we hope to see you all live soon somewhere.